Today's episode of the Influencer Empires podcast is brought to you by the Empire Program with White Label Suite, powering our influencers and building their empires. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Influencer Empires podcast. Today on our show, we have a superstar in the real estate agency space. This man, when he talks, has more than 500,000 people pay attention to his every word. He has been a real estate agent for more than 25 years, but has sold over 2,700 homes. Now, if you're doing the maths, that's more than 100 homes per year. He's now on a mission to do 1,000 homes a year over the next 5 years and train people along the way. When this man speaks, people listen. He's teaching real estate agents how to succeed, how to get out of their own way, and building a tribe and a following along the way. Every single post that he's making on social media is getting picked up with hundreds of comments and likes and people engaging with none other than Michael Putnam. Michael is the CEO of the Putnam Group. He's also the founder of the Alpha U real estate coaching program, and he is a man worth listening to. Dude, I'm so thrilled that you've taken the time to join us on the show. Thank you so much for jumping in.
Wow, what an introduction. I can't say very often I'm blushing. That was quite impressive. Thank you.
No, man, we're just getting started. There was a whole bunch of stuff I had to cut out there. As I was researching you, Michael, you've had an incredible journey. So how did you actually get into real estate as a career and as a profession?
What's funny, before I got into real estate, I was a restaurant consultant, which, everybody's seen Bar Rescue. You basically have 4 months, you hire, fire, go to the next place. And I just traveled around the country doing that. And, after you work 100 hours a day, you start to say, gosh, if you make $100,000 and you work 100 hours, you basically are making $10 an hour, So
Right. I
started to look at it. My grandmother had always said to go into sales. So I went out and interviewed at Xerox and IBM and, pharmaceuticals. And the last stop was this mom and pop real estate shop out in Woodbridge called Heartland Realty. And I'll never forget, I get in there and there's a guy and, he starts kind of limping in there. And he goes, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Mike Putnam." And I was like, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm the broker." And his name was Jerry. And so we start talking. And I said, "Jerry, can I ask you a question?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "How much money you make last year?" He said, "Well, I've been doing it 30 years. I'm like, "I know, but you don't have to tell me. But if you did, what'd you make?" And he was like, $352,000. I was like, "Jerry, you made $352,000. "Oh, yeah, but I've been, you wouldn't lie to me, Jerry." "Oh, no." So he left. This guy comes in and he's trying to pitch me. I'm like, stop. See that man down there? What's his name? His name's, did he make 350? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm in. I'm in. Stop. I'm in. Give me, signed it. I called up my boss and I'm like, "I'm putting in my 2 weeks. I'm going into real estate." It's like, "If you do that, we're going to let you go." And I'm like, "Great." And then boom, I go to the guy and I'm like, "I'm ready to start tomorrow." And he's like, "Well, you got to get a license." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. How do I do that?" He's like, "Well, there's a backup of 4 months." I'm like, "Oh, couldn't you have told me that before I quit my job?" I luckily got a notice after 3 weeks that there was an opening in Roanoke, Virginia, which is 8 hours from where I live. And so I remember going down there and literally, if I didn't pass the test, I would have had to wait 4 months, which probably financially wouldn't have been very good for me.
Right.
And I remember the only hotel I could find was a Motel 1, you know what I mean? You could rent it by the minute, and I'm just like, this is real estate at the very bottom. You got motorcycle gangs, you got people smoking. I mean, it was just one of those things, but I crammed in that stuff and I passed. And then I'll never forget, I was just like, boom, I'm excited. So I got in there the first day because I'm thinking real estate, 100% commission. You have to have hungry wolves. I envision the Wolf of Wall Street. I figured everybody would there. I didn't obviously pre-qualify what I was walking into.
Yeah.
But I imagine just people that are just pounding the phones and just calling because it's a commission job. And I walked in at 6:30. I'm in my 3-piece suit. And I look around and there's literally nobody there. I'm flicking on and the phone's ringing at 7:30 and 8:30 goes and 9 o'clock comes and 9:30 and around 10 o'clock, the first agent came in and he was in jeans and a t-shirt and he's playing solitaire. And I'm freaking out because I just quit my job. And I'm like, "Dude, what do we do to sell houses?" He's like, "Dude, just answer the phone." So I'm like transferring stuff. I think the second agent came in at 12. And I remember calling my mom at like 1 o'clock and saying, I think I messed up. Like nobody's working. I'm looking at the sales board. It says 1, 1, 1, 2, 3. Like that can't be good, you know? And my first job when I was 14 was a telemarketer.
Right.
You know, I called for the handicapped and disabled. So intuitively, I panicked. And so I got the white pages and I just started at A. And I was just like, hi, this is Mike with Heartland Realty. Have you ever thought about buying or selling? No. And, you know, I just kept doing that over and over. And I would do it for 8 hours a day. And, you know, my nervous system had not got used to 8 hours of that. So, like, you know, I would literally, some days I would throw up because, like, it was so intense. But I knew that, like, I wasn't going to make money unless I talked to people, you know. And I'll never forget, I finally set a listing appointment and I talked to the broker and he came in and he just bombed it. He just bombed the appointment. And I remember calling the guy back. The guy's like, never call back again. And I'm thinking, like, I can't do worse than that guy. So I went on the next one by myself, you know, and I'll never forget, it was a military lady. And at that time, you know, I had started coaching with Mike Ferry. He was one of the premier real estate coaches. And he was like, just bring the script and read it. And I was so nervous. I was like, number one, I have to sell the house. And the lady's looking at me like, what? And second question, number two, do you have to price it to sell? You want to keep it? And she's literally looking at me because I sounded good on the phone, but like I wasn't good in person. And then the third one is, you want me to handle it? And she literally is like, this is done. Pack it up, you're out. And she literally walked upstairs. And I remember like walking out and like I was kind of slumped over and I was just like, God, is this for me? Because, you know, the people at my office weren't selling at high volume. And like, I really didn't know what to do, but I knew that the more people I talked to, it gave me the best chance. And obviously, as I kept doing that, I kept getting better. And I realized that, you know, at a very early age, that volume is the ultimate protection. And I think that's the one thing that stops most real estate agents from ever being successful is they don't understand the volume. You know, I'm in the process now of writing a book and I talk about the 6 levels of real estate. And, you know, the first one is you have to learn how to volume call because without a volume of calls, you don't get the reps to actually be good enough. Because whether you like it in sales, you have to know how to talk to people. You know, most scripts is you selling. People don't want to be sold. You know what I mean? You want to learn to influence people. You learn to influence people by asking great questions. You know, instead of asking someone, where do you want to move? It's like, if you moved, would you stay local or would you relocate? You know what I mean? Instead of asking, what kind of house do you want? Where they could say, I don't know. It's, do you want a bigger house or a smaller house? So I started learning that there's ways that you can talk to people that they cannot say no. And that's one of the things we use to like evolve. But, you know, for a lot of agents, they're not willing to do the volume of calls because they would rather sit in an open house and wait for people to come because that's easy. But what is easy is normally hard. And I think, you know, when you look at the National Real Estate Institute, you're looking at probably 1 to 2 houses a year is what the average agent sells. And it's because they don't make volume of calls. But even if they do that, you know,
that's amazing. We talked just before we hit the record that you just now moved into a 9,000 square foot office. Like you're doing incredible things. There's a couple of things though that as you were talking there, Mike, as you're telling that startup story, that's really stood out. Number one, you talked about that you were coaching from that guy. Like, so you had somebody that was coaching you, and then you also mentioned there, like we'll get to the volume because I saw one of your YouTube shorts. You were talking about the volume of calls there, but we'll get to that in a second. So you talked about coaching, and then you talked about, I learned there was a way to speak to people. I learned that there was a way to ask questions. At what point during this journey did you decide to take it seriously? When you said, I'm a study, I'm all in, I'm going to be a professional, you actually, I'm assuming you would have had to make that mental switch to turn that on and go, I need to learn this craft. I want to do this. Was that can you remember that time when you went all in on the future of this?
Yeah, I think, you know, for me growing up, you know, I played basketball competitively. And, you know, when you start to go out into the marketplace and you start to lose consistently, you know, I started to realize that it wasn't failure, it was feedback.
Yeah.
It was feedback that like my presentation wasn't good enough. I didn't know my scripts. And, you know, the problem is that, you know, I was 25 years old, but the problem is that I looked 18. And what happened is that I sounded like a kid and I looked like a kid. So I realized that unless I changed the way I kind of looked, the way I sounded, Roger Love is a vocal coach. And I remember hiring him to help me with my voice because my voice wasn't deep. It didn't have the resonance. And so I sounded like a kid. And so, when you sound like a kid, people treat you like a kid. So, there's
Right.
a lot of
Yeah.
obstacles. If you don't look the part and sound the part, it's like you're dealing with people's number one investment and you look like they're a 16-year-old kid,
Yeah. Right. They're not
And
going to
so
trust
those are
you.
some of the challenges. But I think being competitive and losing time after time after time, there was a guy, Gary Fitzgibbons, that I would compete against a lot. He was like the number one agent that I competed against. And he would just smear me every time. And, I would lose and he would call me up and be like, hi, I just want to let you know that they listed the property with me. If you have any buyers, let me know. 3-second pause and hang up. And so I think enough of that is you start to realize, so I had him on my wall, and then there was another guy, Casey Margano, he was the number one Remax agent in the world. And, Tony Robbins was one of my mentors. And so I remember calling him up and being like, hey, I just got into real estate. I see you're the number one agent. You're actually in my area. I was wondering if I could take 15 minutes of your time and just see what you do. And he was like, what's your name? And I was like, Mike. He's like, Mike, I need you to do me a favor. I'm like, of course. He's like, never call me again. So I put his picture on the wall. So, the people that
Wow.
that me thought that I was a little insane because, I had all these different pictures of the people that every day I had to compete against. And, looking at them every day was a reminder that if I wasn't working hard, they were going to beat me. So it was kind of
Wow.
me every single day, going in and making sure that I understood that if I didn't improve, I was going to get the same feedback. Because I think too many people look at failure and don't understand it's not failure, it's feedback. It's telling you what you need to improve on. And I don't think a lot of people embrace that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm going to ask you the same question you asked Jerry. Tell me the truth. What's the most amount of money you've made from real estate in a single year?
2.1 million.
I'll just pause for effect. Like that is absolutely amazing, dude. Do you think right now, even as we're recording this, Mike, do you feel like real estate is still an incredible opportunity for somebody who has that hunger and that fire, who wants to make something of themselves? Can anybody step in and do this now?
Yeah. I mean, let me tell you something. I think right now we're getting into a skill-based market. The last 10 years, you didn't have to do anything and the houses kind of sold themselves. It's been a while since we had a skill-based market. It's probably been since 2008 that we've had a market like this. I think that in the next 18 months, you're going to see 40 to 50% of real estate agents get out of the business
Yeah.
because they don't have the skills. And more importantly, they don't have the volume. But having said that, for the people that have skills, they have the systems, the strategies, and they go out and execute. I think that there's agents that can triple their business. I don't know if there's ever honestly been a greater opportunity to be a real estate agent because with less agents having skills, it's so easy to shine. I mean, I have a 17-year-old from one of my past clients that is here for the summer, and they're like, hey, we watch what you do. You sold our house. Do you mind if he makes calls for you? Sure. That kid got 2 leads that turned into listings, and he's going to make 12 grand in 5 weeks at 17. Where in the world can you make 12 grand?
Yeah, right. And step into the shoes and just get straight into it and start it off. So like the journey that has given you, Mike, to come from that kicking down doors, driving 8 hours to get the license to, smiling and dialing, just doing the volume to now where, as I mentioned on that intro, there's more than 500,000 people that pay attention to your socials and your posts and you go in there. How has that social following influenced you and influenced your life?
I think, I'd probably get 15 to 20 DMs per week. And, a lot of the videos that I make are around, people that I talk to. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are having the worst year of their real estate career. And I'm talking really, really good agents
Yeah.
because they don't understand that if you don't improve in one of the 6 levels, you get stuck there. I mean, some people they're good at calling people, but they're not good at turning conversations into leads. They're not good at taking leads and turning them into appointments. They're not good at taking appointments and turning them into a signed contract. And I think the biggest thing you're seeing now is they don't know how to take a signed contract, meaning a listing agreement, and they don't know how to get it sold because right now you're having to go back and ask for price reductions. I mean, I had a house listed at 950. Another house came on the market a week later at 925. So we dropped to 925. They dropped to 900. We dropped to 900. We dropped to 875. They came to 875. We dropped to 850. They stayed. And then we got an offer at 840. It's like not many people have the ability to take a seller from here to here. And then when the offer came in at 850, I mean, it was listed at 850, at 840, having the skills to then get them to take that. And then the home inspection, there was issues because it was bad. And getting them to do that, like that is a skill.
Yeah.
The skill of walking people through the process. Because remember, for most people, this is the single biggest investment. There's more emotion in real estate than probably any other transaction because it's people's biggest money experience. And I think that a lot of people, they don't understand that it's your job to make sure that you have the skills necessary to navigate them through that. So, I really believe that. I mean, there's a guy that I was coaching and he had 27 listings before he stopped coaching, active and one pending. What does that tell you? He had $300,000 in active inventory and said, you know what, I think I'm going to pause coaching. And the funny thing is, I said, dude, come to my office. I will sit down at the table and I will do it with you. You'll get at least 80%. We'll throw away the 20%. You'll make 200 grand because he had 330 grand in active inventory. But the sad part is that to him, he was looking at the cost instead of saying, if I know that skill, the investment for me is that I'm going to make 200,000 back. I had one of my clients last week. She had a listing that had been on the market over 100 days at 1.5 million. So we talked about it and I said, where does he need to be? She said 1.2. So I went through all the scenarios. I get on a call with her, walk through. She gets the guy to 1.2. It sells the next 3 days for 1.25. She's going to make $42,000. See, that's the thing. People don't understand that the biggest cost in our life is not what we pay. Because I remember someone telling me, what's the biggest cost in your life? And I was like, my mortgage. Nope. Taxes. Nope. It's the cost of not knowing. See, for that guy, the cost of him not knowing how to reduce listings and get listings sold, it's costing him $330,000. He's focusing on such a small fragment. And I think that's one of the reasons that so many people aren't successful is that they would rather invest in Apple or invest in Nintendo or in all these other products instead of investing in the best product, which is yourself.
Yeah, I hear it. Sales is a transferable skill, right? So when you know the skill, when you understand the way to communicate, you can sell whether it be real estate or automotive or insurance or whatever it might be. Are you still a study today, Mike? Are you investing in your own skill set to sharpen up all the time? Oh, I've lost you there, Mike. I've got a camera freeze. Let's see if I can get Mike back on, you guys. Mike, jump back in with me. Mike, have I lost you? Mike. Let's see if we can get Mike, guys. We seem to have dropped Mike off there. Let's
see. You hear me?
Yeah, I got you back, man. Whoa, that was great. All right. So my question to you was: Are you still a study today? Are you still actively investing in your own skill development?
Absolutely. I've got 4 coaches right now that coach me in all different things. You have to realize something. It's like if I told you to run as fast as you could, and you did, and then I said, I bet you $1,000 you could run even faster, and you're like, nope. And then I said, well, why don't you try one more time? And then after you started, I put a pit bull and I let it go and it started chasing you. Which one are you going to run faster? The one by yourself or the one with a pit bull chasing you? And I think for a lot of people, they don't understand that if you don't have something forcing you to do the things that you don't want to do, you'll never do it. I mean, even the videos, I mean, to me, that's just not something I like. It's like you're talking to nobody. It's like the weirdest thing. It's like and it's like I have a lady and she's in California and she's Russian. And I mean, if I don't make my videos, she's just on me. And like, you need people in your life to hold you accountable to what you say you want. Because I think the number one thing that stops people from being successful is they base their activities on how they feel, not on what they. You see, if you base your activities on what you want in your life, it's a completely different life than if you base it on how you feel. After 25 years in real estate, I don't know there's any day that I wake up that I'm just so excited to go talk to thousands of people. But I know that it gives a great life. I get to train a lot of people and I get to serve people. I hear so many people say, I'm not a salesperson. And the truth is, everybody is a salesperson. Like, let me ask you something. Who's the person that you love the most in your life?
My kids.
Okay. If one of your kids was on a bridge and they said they were about to jump and they called you, at what point would you hang up the phone?
Never. Not
if they gave you 1,000 reasons why they should jump? What would you give them back?
1,001.
and that's sales. See, sales is nothing more than caring about your customer. The ultimate sales hack is when you go from selling to serving. And when I teach people to do that and they come from that place, that's where you can influence and sell people. You don't push people. You want to ask questions and serve, and then it pulls them in. And I think that's one of the biggest distinction between what I teach and what a lot of the real estate agents teach coaches, because they're teaching just scripts. People don't want to be talked to through a script. They want to be talked to.
Yeah.
A script is talking through you. A script is, there's no interaction. People want to be humanized now. There's so many things that are pulling us that people starve for connection. And if you know how to connect with people and you know how to get reports, like, when I walk into a house, the first thing I do is I say, before we get started, I'm going to take a quick look at the house. This is where we're going to switch roles for a second. You actually get to be the real estate agent. You show me around. And then they'll be like, oh, here's the living room. And I'm like, wow, you're natural. And it immediately creates a playfulness, because you see, if I can get you to feel like I'm like you, then you're going to want to do business with me. And I think rapport is one of the things that most people don't talk about. Rapport. People like to work with people they like and trust. And if you can't get to like you, then you're going to have trouble just talking at people. It doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Mike, everything that you're talking about here is deliberate. And what I mean by that, my question to you before was, at what point did you decide to become a professional? You said, I'm going to learn, I'm going to study, I'm going to get a coach, I'm going to move this forward. Then even moving into the volume piece, where it's like, I don't want to make 1,000 calls, but I'm going to do it because this is what I've set myself to do. When you're looking at that kind of deliberate actions and going all the way back to the start of your story, when the first agent came in at 10 and the next one came in at 12, it feels to me like that's neglect or drift. And you've chosen very specifically to be deliberate in your life. Is that something that you focus on daily? Is that a process that you go through to be deliberate about your life and the choices you make?
I think everything you do in your life has to be deliberate. If you don't deliberately do things, you're not going to have what you want. If you want a good body, you have to be very deliberate. And that every single morning, like for me, I get up at 5:00. I go work out. I get in my cold plunge. Like, there's just certain things that I deliberately have to do, because you see, if you don't do things deliberately, then you're going to do things based on how you feel. I think that's the number one thing that I can't stress enough. People base their life on their feelings, and their feelings rarely ever get what you want, because you have to realize motivation is like a warm bath. It gets cold. It's not something that is sustainable. Even discipline isn't enough, because there'll be times when you're not disciplined. To me, if you want something, you have to become it. So for me, I built my identity. Instead of saying I have to work out, I'm the kind of person that just works out 7 days a week. Instead of saying I got a prospect, I'm the kind of guy that prospects for 6 or 7 hours a day. Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to make calls, I am going to go ahead and talk to 100 people every single day. I was very deliberate with those kind of activities, because you see, if you become everything that you want, then you don't do it. You just become it.
That's amazing. I've literally never heard that. I've studied goal setting and success for most of my professional life. I've never heard it described like that. I think that's amazing. It's not about discipline. It's about becoming the person that does that. Like, I've heard people say about, I'm I'm trying to quit smoking. Well, no, you're changing that to I'm a non-smoker. This change of mindset to be just, I am this person. That's who I am. That's intrinsically what I do. That's a real mind shift that, again, I've never heard before. That's amazing.
I just don't think a lot of people understand. One of the easiest hacks in life is you decide what you want, you think and write down all the things that person does, and then you do that. You become everything that you want, because then you don't have to do it. It's like, when I said I was going to work out every single day for a year, I didn't have to think in the morning when I woke up, was I going to work out? I already signed the contract. I said I was going to work out. And so it's like, when you already know what you're going to do, your mind doesn't negotiate, because it just knows this is what we do. It's just like, I talk to people. It's like, how many times in the middle of the night do you actually feel like getting up and using the bathroom? So why do we? Why does 100% of most people use the bathroom?
Yeah, right.
Because you have to think about something, that is a choice. You could pee in the bathroom. Right. You could literally pee in the bed, but you don't, because you're the kind of person that doesn't pee in your bed. And it's just, I think when people really grasp the thing that when you become,
That's such a different way of thinking. Like, you could just be the person that pees in your bed, but you're not the person that pees in your bed. So get up. Like, you could be the
like,
person that just comes in at 12, but you're not. You're the person that comes in at 6:30 and starts to hit it.
like most people brush their teeth before they go to bed. That's just who they are. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Become what you want, then you don't have to do it. You just are it. You know what I mean?
That's
It's very,
incredible. That's amazing, man. So you would have seen a whole bunch of people coming through and change their lives in terms of real estate and sales, go from struggling to success. Do you put that down to that same learning pattern? Do you put it down to discipline? Do you put it down to goal setting, values internally? Like, what's the guy that walks through your door and you know that you can take that person from where they are to where they want to be? What's the character that you're looking for in that person that gets you to know that that's going to happen?
I mean, I would say 99% of the time when I get someone, the first thing I have to fix is them.
Yeah.
Real estate skills is only 20%. The 80% is getting them to believe that they can actually do it, that they're worthy. You know what I mean? When you think about making $1 million or 500 and you've only made 40,000 in your life, it seems so far away. You know what I mean? It's just incomprehensible. So my first thing that I have to really work with people is mentally getting them to believe that they can actually do it. You have to realize there's three parts of life. The first thing, to do anything, you have to believe it's possible. If you don't believe it's possible, you will not do it. The second, you start to believe that you can do it. And then the third part is you start to understand your true value, meaning that, like, if you have a job now at 100,000 and I teach you to make 400,000, would you ever take a job at 200,000? No,
Never.
because you understand that your value is 400,000. And so I think for a lot of people, they have to go in understanding that someone has done it. So we know that it's possible. But somewhere along the way, if you keep pushing, there's a moment where you actually start to believe that that it's possible for you. You believe that you can do it. And when I coach people, when they get to that point, it's one of the most beautiful things to watch someone blossom and to start to win. You know, you have to realize something. Losing is a habit, but so is winning. You have to teach people how to win. And what a lot of people don't realize is the way you win is you have to be willing to lose. No one starts off winning. Look at Michael Jordan. He didn't win championships. Winners are built. They don't come that way. And I think so many people look at other agents and they'll be like, you know what? I want to be like Mike. Like, there was a guy 3 years ago and he called me and he said, you know what? I am the next Mike Putnam. And I said, you know what? Good. He's like, I'm going to be just like you. And I'm like, are you saying that or do you mean it? He's like, oh, no, I mean it. I want to be just like you. I'm like, I've never done this before, but for some reason, why don't you come live with me for 3 days? I'm going to have you live at my house. You'll get up when I get up. You'll work out when I work out. You call when I call. You go home when I call. I want you to see what it's like with me and my wife and my kids. And then we're going to do that for 3 days. Oh, yeah, I would love that. So the first day, it's like 5 o'clock. Get up. I'm just going to skip gym. Dude, you're in my house. Get up. Work out. Get there. By like 12 o'clock, his eyes are just red because he's never prospect for 4 straight hours. He's like, what are those eye drops? And I'm like, dude, you just put them in. Yeah. So we went through that. He goes, I'm tired. I'm going to go down. I'm like, stop. Now you get to be with me and my family. I want you to see what that's like. Next day, 5 o'clock. I'm not working out. I'm like, dude, get up. You're in my house. I don't feel like working out. Well, you know what's good? I don't feel like working out either, but I'm the kind of person that works out. And since you're in my house, you're going to do it too. By the time he got to about 2 o'clock that day, he literally looked at me and he said, you know what? I don't want to be like you. And he literally packed up and left.
Wow.
And the thing that, that he didn't understand is that to prospect for 6 or 7 or 8 hours a day, it's like a marathon. You have to train yourself to do. You don't just walk in and do that. And I think so many people look at the end product of people and they don't understand all the things they had to do in private. Tony Robbins has always said, you get rewarded in public for what you do in private. Everyone sees the $1 million real estate and you're showing all these fancy houses. But if you don't have a high volume of leads to go show, you don't have a business, which means that for the majority of real estate agents, if you're going to sell in high volume, you're not on a TV show, you're going to have to call in large volume to make a profit. Because if you look at the alternative is you could buy business. Zillow charges like $2,000 a lead and only 10% convert. Do the math. It's not there. So if you're going to buy business, you may sell a lot, but you're going to be broke. I remember coaching a guy and he's like, I made 800,000. I'm like, do you have a P&L? No. good, let's put one together. And I'm like looking, and I'm like, 780, 820, 780. Like, you made 40,000 last year.
Mm.
And he didn't even realize, like, all his money in his mind, I'm making $800,000 a year, but he didn't realize how much money he was spending to actually do it.
Yeah,
And there
right.
goes the most profitable way to be a real estate agent is to learn how to, number one, get leads, which is actually get on the phone and prospect. But number two, have the skills that you can actually convert them.
I love it. I love it. And I know that you've got some amazing coaching programs. You were talking about just before we hit record that you've got a couple of people coming in today, working with them, prospecting with you right there in the thing. Guys, you want to head over to mikeputnam.com. I'll make sure that that link is in the show notes as well, so you guys can follow along with Mike. Mike, let me just focus on the influencer element of this just for a moment, considering, influencer empires. How do you feel that social media is impacting realtors right now? Like, how is the advent of TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all of the amazing platforms that are out there? I know you've got thousands of people that are following you on YouTube as well. How has that world influenced realtors right now?
I think that it gives them a false sense of what success looks like. I think, people only like to post the wins. They don't like to post the losses. They'll post showing $1 million house, but they don't post the day that the $1 million house fell out of escrow.
Right.
We're in a culture now where everybody only posts things that look good. You see relationships and husbands and wives, and they're taking pictures and they're so happy, and their kids, and then they're getting divorced. Nobody likes to actually talk about what it actually takes to be successful. There's just not a lot of people, influencer wise, that actually do it. And people that do and are raw, I think they're unique. And I think that's why people are attracted to them. People want the rawness. They want to know, like, what is it really like to be a real estate agent? That's why my dream was to always have a facility where people could come and I could literally train them from, if they were a beginner or if they were a intermediate, and I could literally train them how to prospect and then actually let them see what it looks like. So, I just got a 9,000 square foot facility in September. We're going to be doing prospecting clinics twice a month where people can fly in for 3 days. I'll show them how to prospect. I'll go over scripts, objections, dialogues, and then they'll prospect next to my team. And, I think the cool thing about my team is that you have kids between 21 and 30, and you have kids in here at 21 that are just lesser copies of me, but you would never think that a 21-year-old could sound that good, because people think that sales, it takes all these years. No, it takes a great mentor that can actually show you what to say, because if you know what to say, it makes it so much easier to go out and execute. The number one reason why people don't do things is they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
If you ask to go out today and cold call people or to call a for sale owner or an expired listing, they won't do it because they're terrified of the rejection and what to say. But when you're equipped with the weapons to fight, you enjoy it. And I think that's one of the things that people see. Even today, when they were here, watching these young kids just dice people up and be able to ask questions and influence and ask this or that. Because you have to realize something. I mean, sales is nothing more than the transfer of energy. The highest level of sales is where we take our eyes and we just let you borrow it so that you can see what we see. It's funny when, like, a seller says, I'm going to wait 6 months for the value of my house to go up. And I'm like, great, but you're going to buy a house in 6 months. Isn't that house going to go up too? So if you make $30,000 on your house and then you give the next seller $30,000 to buy their house, how much money did you actually make by waiting 6 months? We didn't make anything.
Right. But it's just having the skills to have that answer ready to go.
Yeah, but if you buy a house now, instead of giving the seller $30,000, you'll actually have $30,000 in equity. See, I learned at an early ages that if you take complex things and make it really simple that people can digest it, they receive it. And that's how you persuade people. It's like I had an investor yesterday. It's like, he was talking about waiting for the market to get better. I'm like, well, if you wait in this market, you're going to get a 1 or 2% return. You mentioned that you have other investments that give you 20 or 30%. So if you're going to wait, would you rather wait with a 1 or 2% return or a 20 or 30%? Because either investment, you're going to wait. The question, do you keep it in this asset class or this asset class? You're an investor.
Nice.
What's the number one goal of investing? To make money.
Yeah.
You want 20 or 2?
Easy decision.
But that's how you have to learn to talk to people. You have to learn to really simplify it, and people receive.
I love it. I love it. So changing lives, Mike, like, literally taking people in, letting them sit next to you and have that coaching, be in the pit bull in their lane, chasing them down towards the finish line, helping people run faster in their lives and in their profession. That's amazing. Do you feel the responsibility of that? Does that ever weigh on you that there are lives that you're responsible for now because people are following what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like, it's an obligation. I mean, I took some skills that God gave me and I had some great mentors along the way. And it's just like, I feel like, there's 6 levels in real estate, but the seventh level of anything is become so good at it that you can give it back to someone else. Because, the key to living at the end of the day is to give. And when you can give your information and as a result, other people's lives are changed. I mean, when I watch the agents that work for me and they make 3 and 4 and 500,000 and they have no expenses, where in the world can you do that? You know what I mean? Like we make more than the president of the United States. Like we make more than Fortune 500 CEOs. It's just like, it's insane that I can take people with no college education. They have nothing, but they can have the desire to have a better life and they can have it. It's one of the most beautiful things, as I said, to watch my clients win. And the number one thing that stops people from ever taking that first step is they focus so much on the cost. They don't look at the investment of what they get back. They don't understand that the biggest cost is what you don't know.
Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. I think that's an incredible place to wrap. Guys, this is none other than Mike Putnam. He is, as I mentioned at the beginning, the leading star in the real estate space where you can actually come and turn your career around. But Mike, some of the things that you've said there are outside of real estate. They're outside of sales. They're literally like a life direction, and I appreciate you for that. Being able to understand the thought of internalizing, this is who I am. This is what I need to become to achieve what I'm looking for. Dude, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing the time, sharing the insights. Again, guys, that's MikePutnam.com. Instagram, YouTube. Mike is talking to the camera, even though he feels weird about it, helping people change lives and move their roadblock forward, and being that pit bull in the corner. If you want to have a pit bull chasing you down towards the finish line, none better than Mike. Mike, thank you again, man. I really appreciate your time and sharing some of the wisdom that's taking you to where you are.
I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.